Commander Vox Turek of the Galactic Hegemony's 7th Acquisition Fleet drummed his 4 digits against the command console, watching the blue-green orb of Earth rotate peacefully on the main view screen. The humans had no idea what was coming. None of them did. Status report on the planetary defense neutralization? Vox asked, his triangular pupils narrowing as he addressed his second-in-command. Lieutenant Azara Pell consulted her data tablet. Complete success, Commander. Their satellite network has been compromised, ground-based defense systems are disabled, and their primitive detection arrays have been blinded. She smiled, revealing rows of small, pointed teeth. They won't even know we are here until the first harvester touches down. Excellent. Vox stood from his command chair and approached the viewport. Earth looked so insignificant from up here. Just another resource-rich world populated by a species too young to properly defend it. And what of their governments? Any coordinated response? Scattered and disorganized, exactly as predicted, replied Communications Officer Drell Corva from his station. Their leaders are in panic mode. Some are preparing addresses to their citizens, others have gone into hiding. No unified defense strategy detected. Vox nodded with satisfaction. The Acquisition Advisory Board had categorized humans as a Class 3 threat capable of resistance but ultimately manageable. After studying their history, Vox wasn't surprised. Humans spent more time fighting each other than preparing for external threats. Their planetary defense strategy was a joke compared to other worlds the hegemony had conquered. Begin the demonstration phase, Vox commanded. Target their most populous cities first. The usual pattern. Targeting complete, Weapons Officer Janto Mira confirmed. Kinetic bombardment ready. Waiting for your command. Vox took a moment to savor the anticipation. This was always his favorite part of an acquisition, the moment before the species below realized how thoroughly outmatched they were. He'd overseen 17 successful planetary acquisitions for the hegemony. Earth would be his 18th. For fire. The massive ship shuddered slightly as the first salvo of kinetic rods launched toward Earth. From this distance, they looked like shooting stars, beautiful, even as they streaked through the atmosphere toward their targets. Impact in 30 seconds, Janto announced. Vox watched impassively. The humans called them New York, Tokyo, Shanghai, London, and Mumbai. The hegemony called them resource collection points. Soon they would be little more than craters. Impact. Impact. The view screen showed flashes of light as the kinetic rods struck their targets with the force of small nuclear weapons. No radiation, no fallout, just pure destructive force that would leave the planet's resources intact. Casualties estimated at 47 million, Azara reported clinically. Significant infrastructure damage achieved. Primitive communication networks going dark in affected regions. Good. Prepare the second wave targeting their military installations. Then we will send in the harvester ships. Vox turned to face his bridge crew. Remember, the advisory board wants this acquisition completed within one standard rotation. We have resources to collect and a schedule to maintain. Commander, Drell interrupted, his voice tinged with confusion. I'm detecting unusual communication patterns from the planet. Vox frowned. Explain. Their military channels should be in chaos, but instead they are becoming more organized. Communications are increasing exponentially, and they are encrypting everything. Our decryption algorithms can't keep up. That's unexpected, Vox admitted. The species profile had indicated humans would fragment under pressure, not unify. Keep monitoring. It's probably just their military making a last-ditch effort before we take out their command centers. Yes, sir, but there's something else. Drell's brow ridges furrowed deeply. We are detecting massive energy spikes across their planet, locations that weren't on any of our intelligence reports, as military installations are suddenly going active. Now that was concerning. Vox strode back to his command chair and pulled up the tactical display. Show me. The display lit up with dozens, then hundreds of energy signatures, some in remote areas, others hidden beneath metropolitan regions that should have been in chaos. Impossible. muttered Azara. Our intelligence was thorough. There's no way they could have hidden this many installations from our probes. Sensor officer, full spectrum scan of those energy signatures, Vox ordered, a prickle of unease creeping up his spine. Sensor officer Pax Nuri's hands flew over her console. Sir, these energy signatures, they are not matching any known human technology in our database. They are far more advanced. Almost as if. As if what? Officer Nuri. Vox snapped. As if they are not human in origin at all, she finished quietly. A heavy silence fell over the bridge, broken only by the constant beeping of consoles. Commander. Janto suddenly shouted. Multiple launches detected from Earth's surface. Hundreds of them. Primitive missiles? Vox asked, already knowing the answer wouldn't be that simple. No, sir. Their velocity and trajectory suggest spacecraft. Advanced spacecraft. The tactical display updated to show swarms of vessels rising from Earth's surface and atmosphere from oceans, deserts, mountains, and cities. They weren't the clumsy chemical rockets humans were known for. These moved with the precision and speed of gravitic drives, technology the humans shouldn't possess for at least another century. Impossible, Vox breathed. This violates everything in their species profile. Sir, they are forming attack formations, Azara reported, her usual confidence wavering. Military precision. These aren't civilian craft. Drell's console suddenly erupted with alerts. Commander, we are being hailed by over 50 different vessels simultaneously. On screen, Vox ordered, trying to maintain his composure. Let's see what tricks these humans are playing. The view screen flickered and split into multiple windows, each showing, not humans, but faces from a dozen different alien species, many recognized as adversaries or victims of past hegemony acquisitions. What in the seven hells? Janto whispered. One of the faces, a grizzled Arcturian with battle scars across his snout, spoke first. This is Admiral Krek Lorvanth of the Earth Defense Coalition. Your unprovoked attack on our ally world will not stand. The hegemony has grown complacent, thinking you could simply harvest whichever worlds you please. Another face, a luminous Folian whose species had lost their homeworld to the hegemony 2 cycles ago, joined in. You thought Earth was alone, unprotected. You were wrong. Vox struggled to process what he was seeing. This is impossible. Earth is a pre-contact civilization. They haven't even achieved consistent interplanetary travel. A third alien, a massive Drovian whose exoskeleton gleamed under the lights of their bridge, laughed heartily. Oh, you poor, misguided fools. Did you really think we would advertise our alliances? Let me guess your intelligence showed humans fighting among themselves, technologically primitive and completely unaware of galactic society. That's what all our data indicated, Azara admitted, her voice small. Of course it did, said the Arcturian, because that's what we wanted you to see. A new window opened on the view screen, and this time, a human face appeared, a dark-skinned woman with short gray hair and eyes that reflected no fear whatsoever. This is General Alexandra Powell, Earth Combined Defense Forces, she said calmly. You know, we have been watching the hegemony for decades, studying how you operate, waiting for you to eventually find us. Did you really think a species as paranoid as humans wouldn't have contingency plans for alien invasion? Hell. We have been making movies about this exact scenario since before we had computers. Vox felt his scales tighten against his skin, his species' involuntary fear response. If you have such advanced allies, why hide? Why pretend to be primitive? General Powell smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Bait. Pure and simple. We needed to know which of our galactic neighbors were worth trusting and which ones would try to strip mine our planet at the first opportunity. Congratulations on sorting yourself into the second category. Sir, Pax interrupted urgently, I'm detecting massive energy buildup from Earth's moon. It's not a natural satellite. The entire thing appears to be artificial, at least partially. Vox's head snapped toward the tactical display, which now showed the moon glowing with energy signatures all across its surface. You didn't really think that big chunk of rock was just sitting there by accident, did you? Powell asked, her smile widening. Luna Defense Station has been operational for over 70 years. We just keep the lights off to avoid attracting unwanted attention, like yours. Commander, we need to retreat, Azara urged quietly. Call for reinforcements. And go where exactly? The Drovian rumbled from the screen. Perhaps you haven't noticed, but you are surrounded. The moment you launched those kinetic weapons, you activated our defense treaty with Earth. Vessels from 27 civilizations have just arrived in this system. The tactical display confirmed this horrifying claim. Hundreds of warships had appeared from subspace jumps all around them, encircling the hegemony fleet in a three-dimensional web of overwhelming firepower. This is absurd, Vox sputtered. Earth can't possibly have this many allies. They are barely out of their planetary cradle. Commander, having trouble understanding? Powell asked, head tilted in mock confusion. Let me break it down for you. Turns out there are plenty of species in this galaxy who are tired of hegemony acquisitions. Some had the technology but not the strategic mindset to stop you. Others had the will to fight but lacked the resources. Earth? We had something different to offer. And what might that be? Vox asked, trying desperately to buy time as he signaled his fleet to prepare for emergency jump. Creativity, she replied simply. Ingenuity, unpredictability, and a strange talent for bringing disparate groups together against common threats. While you were busy building empires, we were building alliances. Turns out, a lot of species appreciate having crazy, resourceful humans on their side. Commander, Janto said, panic evident in his voice, the lunar installation is powering up some kind of weapons system. Energy readings are off the charts. You have exactly one chance, Powell continued, her expression hardening. Power down your weapons, recall any remaining kinetic projectiles if possible, and prepare to surrender your vessels. The Coalition will ensure your crews are treated in accordance with interspecies conventions on prisoners of war. Vox's mind raced through options, none of them good. The hegemony protocols were clear retreat if outmatched, no heroic last stands. But retreat didn't seem possible either. Sir, Azara whispered urgently, what are your orders? Before Vox could answer, General Powell spoke again. Oh, and Commander, while you are considering your options, you should know something else about humans. Her expression was almost pitying now. Those cities you targeted, the ones with millions of innocent civilians? We evacuated them weeks ago when our deep space sensors first detected your approach. Those were empty buildings you destroyed. We have been preparing for this day for generations. Terrified, sir, Pax reported, shock evident in her voice. Thermal scans show minimal life signs in the impact zones. They are ghost cities. Vox stared at the view screen, at the human general's resolute expression, at the faces of the allied species commanders, and finally at the tactical display showing his fleet hopelessly outgunned. In 17 successful acquisitions, he'd never encountered anything like this. Commander? Azara prompted again. Vox Tariq, decorated fleet commander of the galactic hegemony, slouched back in his command chair, suddenly feeling very, very tired. Power down weapons, he ordered quietly. Recall any projectiles that can still be aborted. Signal the fleet to stand down. As his crew rushed to comply, Vox couldn't help but ask one final question. How? How did a single world, a single species manage to create this? He gestured helplessly at the massive coalition fleet surrounding them. Powell's expression softened slightly. You made a classic mistake, Commander. You studied our weapons, our technology, our political divisions, but you never bothered to understand our stories. Stories? Vox repeated, bewildered. Yes, our stories. For thousands of years, humans have been imagining scenarios exactly like this one: alien invasions, apocalyptic threats, extinction-level events. We have been mentally preparing for this moment through our fiction longer than we have had electricity. She leaned forward. While your intelligence agents were watching our news broadcasts and military movements, they should have been reading our books and watching our movies." The Arcturian admiral chuckled. "The first time I encountered humans, I thought they were the most paranoid species in the galaxy. Turns out they were just prepared. And now," Powell continued, "you have given us something we have been waiting for since we first looked up at the stars and wondered if we were alone." "And what's that?" Vox asked, dreading the answer. "The chance to show the galaxy exactly what happens when you threaten Earth." Her smile returned, fierce and determined. "You thought we would mourn quietly when you attacked our world? So that we'd cower and beg for mercy?" The lunar defense platform suddenly illuminated fully, bathing Earth's night side in brilliant white light. From Vox's vantage point in orbit, it almost looked as if. "The sky has turned human, Commander," Powell said softly. "And humanity does not mourn quietly. We fight back." As Vox watched the Earth-Moon system glowing with power and surrounded by Allied warships, he realized with sudden clarity exactly how badly the hegemony had miscalculated. The advisory board had categorized humans as a Class 3 threat. As his ship prepared to surrender to the Earth Defense Coalition, Commander Vox Tariq mentally upgraded that assessment to Class 1. And for the first time in his career, he began to wonder if perhaps the hegemony's days of unchallenged acquisition were coming to an end. 3 days after the failed invasion, Commander Vox Tariq sat in a surprisingly comfortable interrogation room aboard the Luna Defense Station. His wrists were bound by energy restraints that seemed centuries beyond what Earth should possess. Through the viewport, he could see Earth hanging in space, beautiful, defiant, and thoroughly protected by the multi-species fleet that had materialized to defend it. The door hissed open, and General Alexandra Powell entered, accompanied by representatives from 3 different alien species. Vox recognized the Arcturian admiral, Krek Lorvanth, but the others were unfamiliar, a tall, willowy being with iridescent skin and a stocky quadruped with metallic scales. "Good morning, Commander," Powell said, setting a data tablet on the table. "I trust your accommodations are adequate?" "Surprisingly so," Vox replied cautiously. "I expected a primitive brig, not whatever this is." The willowy alien made a sound like wind chimes, apparently their version of laughter. "He still doesn't understand, does he?" "Give him time, Ambassador Zyla," Powell said. "The hegemony's propaganda is quite thorough. Most of their commanders genuinely believe they are bringing order to primitive worlds." "I'm sitting right here," Vox said dryly. "And I'd appreciate being addressed directly rather than discussed like a laboratory specimen." Powell nodded. "Fair enough. Let me be direct then. Your fleet has been impounded, your crew detained comfortably across 4 facilities, and the Hegemony Central Command has been notified of your capture. They have already disavowed your actions, claiming you went rogue." "What?" Vox jerked upright. "That's absurd. I followed standard acquisition protocols to the letter." "Of course you did," the quadruped rumbled, its universal translator giving its voice a metallic quality. "And now that you have failed, they are cutting ties. Classic hegemony tactics. By the way, I'm General Brontak of the Telsian Defense Force. My homeworld was acquired by your people 80 years ago." Vox's gills flattened against his neck, a sign of distress in his species. "The Acquisition Advisory Board authorized this mission specifically. I have the documentation, which we have already transmitted to the Galactic Concord," Powell said, sliding the data tablet toward him. "Along with evidence of 17 other unauthorized planetary acquisitions conducted under similar protocols." "The Galactic Concord?" Vox repeated, his confusion evident. "What is that?" The 4 interrogators exchanged glances. "You truly don't know, do you?" Ambassador Zyla asked, her luminous eyes widening. "Your superiors have kept you completely in the dark. The Galactic Concord is the primary governing body for approximately 68% of spacefaring civilizations in this sector," Admiral Lorvanth explained. "Founded 2,000 years ago specifically to prevent predatory empires like yours from consuming developing worlds." "That's impossible," Vox said, his voice barely above a whisper. Our intelligence indicates no such organization exists. We have mapped the entire sector. There are only scattered independent worlds and a few minor alliances. Powell leaned forward. Commander, I need you to consider something carefully. What if everything you have been told about galactic politics is a carefully constructed lie? What if the hegemony exists inside a bubble of misinformation, intentionally kept ignorant of the wider galactic community? That's preposterous, Vox stuttered, but doubt had begun to creep into his mind. The hegemony spans 17 star systems. We are a major power. You are 17 worlds in a galaxy of millions, General Brontak said bluntly. A minor annoyance the Concord has been monitoring for decades. If that's true, why hasn't this Concord stopped us before now? Vox challenged. Non-interference policy, Powell replied. The Concord believes developing civilizations should evolve naturally, without outside intervention. They only step in when absolutely necessary. It's like when an idiot hegemony commander attacks a protected world, Admiral Lorvanth added with a toothy grin. Vox slumped back in his chair, his worldview crumbling. And Earth. You expect me to believe humans have been part of this Concord all along? Not exactly, Powell said. Humans don't do well with being told to sit quietly in our corner of the galaxy. When Concord observers first arrived about 70 years ago, they planned to simply monitor us from afar until we achieved proper interstellar travel on our own. Ambassador Zyla's skin rippled with colors. But then your people did something unprecedented. You detected the Concord observation vessel despite our cloaking technology. And instead of panicking or attacking, Brontak continued, they invited the observers to land and discuss terms. Powell smiled, a hint of pride in her expression. We have always been good at spotting patterns. Our astronomers noticed subtle gravitational anomalies that shouldn't have been there. Once we realized we were being watched, we figured we might as well be neighborly. That's when we discovered humans have a unique quality, Admiral Lorvanth said, circling the table. They are exceptionally good at bringing diverse groups together, creating alliances where none seemed possible. Vox shook his head in disbelief. So you are telling me that humans, a species that hasn't even colonized its own solar system properly, somehow became galactic diplomats? Not diplomats, Powell corrected. Mediators. Problem solvers. The galaxy is full of ancient species with old grudges and rigid thinking. Sometimes it takes a newcomer perspective to see solutions no one else can. And you have kept all this hidden? Your entire planetary defense network? Your alliances? For what purpose? Vox demanded. Bait? All four said simultaneously. Powell elaborated. The Concord suspected for years that someone was preying on developing worlds before they could join the interstellar community. Worlds would go dark just as they developed their first faster-than-light communications. But they couldn't catch the perpetrators in the act. So we volunteered to help set a trap, she continued. Earth publicly maintained the appearance of a divided, technologically limited world while secretly building up our defenses and alliances. We knew eventually someone would try to acquire us. And you took the bait perfectly, Brontak said with a rumbling laugh. Even brought your entire fleet right to our doorstep. Couldn't have planned it better. Vox felt sick. His entire career, everything he thought he was building for the glory of the hegemony, had been based on lies. What happens now? To my crew? To me? That depends partly on you, Powell said, her tone softening slightly. The Concord isn't vindictive. There will be consequences for the hegemony leadership, certainly. But the average citizens, the military personnel following orders? The Concord believes in rehabilitation over punishment. Ambassador Zyla's skin shifted to a calming blue. Many of your crew have already expressed shock upon learning the truth. Some have requested asylum, fearing retribution if they return to hegemony space. Asylum? Vox repeated, stunned. They want to defect. Is that so surprising? Admiral Lorvanth asked. Once they learned they have been pawns in an illegal expansion campaign, that their government has been lying about its place in the galaxy, that the worlds they helped acquire were innocent developing planets protected by Concord law, a terrible thought struck Vox. The previous worlds we acquired, the inhabitants? The four exchangers' glances again, their expressions grim. Most were evacuated ahead of your attacks, General Brontak said finally. Once we identified the hegemony pattern, the Concord began quietly relocating populations from likely target worlds. But the first few, those were real acquisitions, real tragedies. Vox closed his eyes, trying to process everything. And you think I can just switch sides? After everything I have done? We think you are a victim of your government's lies too, Powell said quietly. The difference is you were in a position of authority. Your actions have consequences. But helping us dismantle the hegemony's illegal acquisition program would go a long way toward amends. The hegemony leadership will never allow themselves to be held accountable, Vox warned. They will fight. Powell smiled, but there was no humor in it. They already tried that. While we have been having this conversation, Concord forces have moved into hegemony space. Their central government is currently surrounded by a fleet 100 times the size of your entire military. A chime sounded, and Powell checked her communication device. In fact, I have just received word that the Hegemony High Council has surrendered unconditionally. The puppet government is being dissolved as we speak. Impossible, Vox whispered. Our defenses, our homeworld, were never as formidable as you were led to believe, Admiral Lorvance said. Your leaders kept your people isolated, feeding you stories of your own supremacy, while hiding the truth that you were small fish in a very large ocean. I need to see proof, Vox demanded. Communication with my homeworld, with the High Council. Fair enough. Powell nodded to Ambassador Zyla, who manipulated a control panel. The viewport changed to display a real-time transmission from the hegemony capital world of Vastrix Prime. Conquered peacekeeping ships filled the sky while on the ground. Hegemony citizens watched in confusion as their leaders were peacefully but firmly escorted from government buildings. This is happening simultaneously across all 17 hegemony worlds, General Brontak explained. No shots fired. No resistance. Your military commanders surrendered the moment they understood the true balance of power. Vox watched in stunned silence as everything he had built his life around collapsed without even a fight. And the people? The civilians will be integrated into the Concord, Ambassador Zyla said gently. There will be a transitional government, education programs to counter the propaganda they have been fed, and eventually, full membership. The Concord doesn't punish populations for the crimes of their leaders. And the victims? The worlds we took? Vox could barely get the words out. Will receive reparations, paid from seized hegemony military assets, Admiral Lorvance said. It won't bring back those lost, but it will help rebuild. Vox turned back to Powell. And humans orchestrated all of this? A species that hasn't even fully settled its own solar system. Powell shrugged. We didn't orchestrate it. We just helped the Concord catch you in the act. As for our technological development, what you saw was never the full picture. We have been more focused on building alliances than fleets. It's served us well. I still don't understand, Vox admitted. How does a young species like yours gain such trust from these advanced civilizations? Why would they listen to you at all? You ever hear of beginner's mind, Commander? Powell asked. It's an old Earth concept. Sometimes those with the least experience see solutions that experts miss because they are not constrained by traditional thinking. Humans are good at finding third options when everyone else sees only two. Ambassador Zyla nodded. When I first encountered humans, I was skeptical too. But they have a remarkable ability to adapt, to see connections others miss, and most importantly, to hope when others have given up. Some call it naivety, General Brontak rumbled. I call it refreshing. My people fought the Telsian-Arcturian War for 700 years before humans suggested a solution so obvious we all felt foolish for missing it, which was Vox couldn't help asking. They pointed out we were fighting over mining rights to a rare mineral that their scientists could synthesize in a laboratory, Admiral Lorvanth said, looking embarrassed. 7 centuries of war ended by a team of human graduate students who couldn't understand why we didn't just make more of the resource we were killing each other over. Despite everything, Vox found himself laughing. It began as a chuckle and grew until tears streamed from his eyes. The 4 interrogators watched with varying expressions of confusion and amusement. "Something funny, Commander?" Powell asked. "Just the absurdity of it all," Vox managed between laughs. "The mighty hegemony brought down because we happened to target the one seemingly primitive world that was actually connected to a vast galactic community. The sheer cosmic irony is overwhelming." "Coincidence had nothing to do with it," Powell said, her expression serious again. "We made ourselves a target intentionally. The Concord needed evidence of your illegal acquisitions, and we needed to test our defenses against a real threat. Call it a mutual arrangement." Vox's laughter died. You used your own people as bait?" "Not exactly," General Brontak said. "The cities you targeted had been evacuated weeks ago, as the General told you. The Earth military has been running planetary evacuation drills for decades, preparing for this exact scenario. We call it the Watchman Protocol," Powell explained, named after an old comic book character who said, "I'm not locked in here with you, you are locked in here with me. We weren't your victims, Commander. We were your jailers. You just didn't realize it until the cell door closed behind you." Vox stared at the human general with new respect. "And now, what role does Earth play in this Concord?" "We are still figuring that out," Powell admitted. "We are young, as you pointed out, still working through our own problems. But we have earned our place at the table, and we have proven we can defend ourselves. And more importantly," Admiral Lorvanth added, "you have proven you can help defend others. The Concord values that quality above almost all else." Vox looked back at the viewport, at his homeworld under Concord control, at Earth hanging in space nearby, and at the Coalition fleet protecting it. Everything he thought he knew had been wrong. Everything the hegemony had taught him was a lie. "I want to help," he said finally. "Whatever information I have about hegemony operations, secret outposts, black projects, it's yours. I need to make this right." Powell nodded, genuine approval in her expression. "That's a start, Commander. A very good start." As the interrogation concluded and Vox was escorted back to his quarters, he caught one last glimpse of Earth through a viewport. From this distance it looked so peaceful, so harmless, a perfect target for acquisition. He'd never make that mistake again. And after today, neither would anyone else in the galaxy. Because now they all knew the truth, humans don't mourn quietly. They fight back. And when they do, they turn the sky itself human,